With the Pixel 4 announced now, it's time to look again for the best smartphone camera. So we put the Pixel 4 XL against the OnePlus 7T, the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, as well as the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Which one's gonna win? Let's take a look. I'm not going to go into the full specs of the phones, but you can read the full story below for more information, as well as a closer look at some of those pictures. And I just wanted to say, photography is subjective, so a lot of the photos that I'm talking about that are my favorites are exactly that. Those are my favorite photos. You might have different favorites, and that's totally okay. Smartphone photography is so good now that we're sort of nitpicking at some of those details, especially with these flagships from all these companies. So again, you might have different tastes to what photos you like more, and so the outcomes might not exactly match up with what you like. We're first starting in Astor Place in New York City and looking at the Cube, also called the Alamo. All these photos aren't drastically different. The Pixel 4 has far too much grain throughout, and it's the one photo where you can see the underside of the Cube the least. I do like its sky the best though. Sadly, the iPhone 11 Pro photo isn't a great shot. The sky is simply too overexposed, and I'd take the Pixel's photo over it. The OnePlus 7T's shot is quite good, but look around the edges and you can notice a bit of distortion. Look at the window panes behind the Cube, where it says Astor Place, and you'll see they're sitting at a slight angle, unlike the frames on the other photo. It's strange. The photo is also a little too warm, even the sky has a reddish hue, which definitely wasn't the case in real life. That leaves the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus in the top slot. It has nice colors, and although the sky isn't as good as the one on the Pixel 4 photo, it manages to keep it under control while keeping the rest of the shot well exposed. Now, one of the key features of the Pixel 4 is its ability to enhance digitally zoomed in photo. It's a feature called Super Rezoom that debuted on the Pixel 3 last year, but it's getting even better on the Pixel 4, so I decided why not do a little bit of digital zooming on all these phones to see how they measure up. These pictures were all captured at around the 5x digital zoom range. What I like most about the Pixel photo is how it looks the least sharpened, or processed. The iPhone comes close, but the leaves aren't as pleasing to look at, and the colors are a little greenish overall. The Samsung shot lags behind as its details look fuzzy if you zoom in close to the statue's head. That leaves us with the OnePlus and the Pixel photo. But look at the leaves to the left of the statue on the OnePlus shot, and it looks heavily sharpened. I also prefer the building's color in the Pixel shot, netting it the narrow win here. Here's another look at testing that digital zoom. You can see that Pixel 4's photo is the clearest, not just with the pillars, but also with the branches and leaves in the foreground. All of that looks like an afterthought on all the other phones. The iPhone comes dead last as it's too pixelated, and next is Samsung for lacking a lot of detail. OnePlus isn't far behind here, but it lacks depth, and the overall photo is a little on the overexposed side. It's another win for the Pixel 4 XL. One thing that is common in all these phones is 2x optical zoom. It's a new lens that Google added on the Pixel 4, but it's something that all these other phones have had for some time, so Google's catching up here. Let's see how it fares. These photos are of a cafe in Astor Place, and they're not too dissimilar across the board, but we can firmly put the OnePlus 7T dead last. The photo is completely flat, almost as though someone cranked black levels all the way to non-existent. It's not visually pleasing at all. I'm also next cutting the Samsung Note 10 Plus out of the competition because the two girls' skin tones are far too bright, as is the girl's hoodie, which almost looks like it's glowing. The latter two will come down to personal preference. I think the Pixel photo delivers the most natural skin tones here over the iPhone 11 Pro, and I prefer the darker, more brown color of the structure instead of the warmer version. Zoom all the way in and you'll see less grain on the interior of the building in the Pixel 4 shot, giving it the narrow win on a technical level, but I'd be more than happy if I used the iPhone's photo for an Instagram post, for example. First off, you have no idea how hard it is to get a dog to sit still on a bench. It took me a while to take these shots, but I think they came out pretty well. Right off the bat, we can cross off the OnePlus 7T again. While it's a cute photo, and it's not that bad at all, my dog's face isn't quite sharp, and the whole image looks a bit flat. The iPhone does the best job of accurately outlining my dog's body and applying this bokeh effect. Samsung's phone comes second, and the Pixel phone comes very close. I really like this shot, but It does mess up a part between my dog's right leg and his body. Zoom in all the way though, and the Samsung and iPhone photos are slightly sharper. The iPhone's photo is brighter, warmer, and has a natural blur effect that trails off towards the bottom of my dog's body. It's almost perfect. And the bokeh effect is surprisingly strong. The Note 10 Plus comes very close here, and I do think it does a better job with white balance, but it just doesn't quite reach the level of the iPhone. Let's turn the camera around and snap a selfie, but let's use portrait mode instead of the normal mode, mostly because, well, let's give a bit of a challenge here. There are two standouts, the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pixel 4 XL. While I think the OnePlus 7T does a wonderful job with HDR, the colors are a little too bright and lack a lot of contrast. Look closely at my face and you can see it's not quite in focus either. The Note 10 Plus snaps a great shot with solid detail and great HDR, but it's also lacking a bit of that contrast. Now take a look at the Pixel and iPhone photos, and the detail on my face looks fantastic. I think the Pixel wins out here for its better HDR, though I still like the skies on the Samsung and OnePlus photos, but I also prefer my skin color on the Pixel image as it looks a little more natural. All these cameras will take great photos of food, but I wanted to do something a little more challenging, so I sat at a restaurant with a red light. It was coming from a heat lamp and it was shining all over my food. In real life, it didn't look like what some of these photos do look like, and there's a clear winner. That's the iPhone 11 Pro Max. The iPhone manages to keep each food item looking distinct and even manages to maintain the color of the surrounding area. Look at all the other photos and you'll see that everything is sort of just red all throughout. The Samsung shot is so red, the food looks as though it's blending into each other, and the OnePlus photo isn't as detailed as the Pixel 4 shot. The latter is still a little too red throughout. Using night sight mode on the Pixel 4, I was able to achieve a look similar to the iPhone, but that technically was just so that I could see what it could do, and we're not counting that here. All right, let's turn down the lights, but let's not use dedicated night modes just yet. These are all photos taken with the normal camera in low light conditions. I like all of these photos, but I am partial to the Pixel 4's photo as it has the least grain, especially compared to the iPhone and OnePlus photos. And it's also the most detailed. I love the color of the rails as it's a much deeper red hue compared to the rails on the other shots. The iPhone 11 Pro's photo is my next favorite, though there's a little too much of a yellow tone. And while I think that the OnePlus shot is a little more detailed than the Note 10 Plus's photo, the colors look muted and flat. Here's another test with the normal camera at night. This one was a little bit of a tough one. I initially awarded the win to the OnePlus 7T because it kind of lit up the whole photo really well, but look closely at the brickwork of the building in the center. The same applies to the Pixel and the Samsung photos. They're all a bit of a blotchy mess. The only photo that has the most detail in this brickwork is from the iPhone 11 Pro, but you can see that it is also the darkest photo in the lot. That being said, I think I would still take the iPhone's detail and maybe just brighten it up in post and use that instead of going with any of the other shots. Now let's flick that night mode on. You can't go wrong with any of these photos. All of these were captured using each phone's dedicated night mode. If you want the most natural look, the iPhone delivers. The most detailed though is from the Pixel 4. Look at the trees in the distance, and even at the grass at the foot of the building on the left. It's much clearer than on the other photos. The OnePlus doesn't perform the best here, with the least detail and slightly off colors. It's still a good shot though. I have no qualms about the Samsung photo, but it doesn't have as much detail as the Pixel 4 photo. I'm largely giving the win here to the Pixel 4 because it does have the best detail, but that's only something you'll notice if you zoom all the way in. I don't think most people are gonna do that, so honestly, all of these photos are pretty good. Interesting tidbit. If you choose the optical lens on any of these phones, only 2 will let you use the dedicated night mode. The iPhone and the OnePlus phones don't let you use night mode when you're choosing that telephoto lens. The Samsung phone does let you use night mode with the telephoto, and so does the Pixel 4, except I'm not really sure if the Pixel 4 is ultimately using that telephoto lens. Here's what they look like. First off, let's write off the OnePlus 7T. It produces an awful tone and it's blurry. Next is Samsung's Galaxy Note 10 Plus, which is also blurry and lacking in contrast. The Google Pixel 4's photo has significantly less grain than the iPhone 11 Pro's photo, but these two are among the few that aren't actually blurry. The bridge in real life wasn't as yellow as on the iPhone, but it also wasn't as white as the Pixel's photo. You can make an argument for ambiance here, but based on the sharper details found on the Pixel 4's photo, and the fact that I think it looks a little more pleasing, it gets the win again. You can always edit it to make it a little more warmer if that's what you prefer. Let's go back to portrait mode, but in low light, it often doesn't really work that well for a lot of these phones. Surprisingly, the results here are pretty good. I posted these 4 photos on my Twitter account without telling people which phones they came from, and I did a poll to see which one people liked the best. Well, the Pixel 4 won in a landslide. And I agree. Why? It does a fantastic job of capturing all the hairs of my dog and manages to apply the blur effect almost perfectly. It also exposes him pretty well without looking too grainy. The iPhone 11 Pro's photo comes next, even though it's super dark and my dog is a little grainy. That's because the blur effect is really good, and my dog is still very much in focus. It's easy to simply brighten this shot up and it'll look excellent. OnePlus comes third because sadly my dog is out of focus, and I'm not a fan of Samsung's photo at all. Sure, my dog is the brightest here compared to any other shot, but it completely loses the ambiance of the scene, overexposes the background, and doesn't retain much detail in my dog's fur. Let's flip that camera once again to take a selfie, this time in low light, but let's still use that portrait mode. Honestly, none of these phones fared that well here in this portrait mode low light test on the Williamsburg Bridge. It's clear Apple is dead last. It's a fuzzy mess with not so great colors, though the blur effect is really strong and accurate. The other 3 photos have similar levels of detail, but I have to go with the Samsung photo because it delivers pleasing colors. I do like OnePlus's photo. I think my face has an ideal amount of contrast here, but the blur effect is really weak. The Pixel 4 goes a little too hard with the harsh yellow tones, and it also completely messes up my hair. When you're looking at the night mode version, only Samsung and Google support it, so comparing them both, I ended up liking the Google one because it has the most detail. Oh, and one more thing, I didn't include an ultra-wide category in here, but 3 of these phones do have an ultra-wide lens, and that is something definitely you should consider if you are looking for a phone with an ultra-wide camera. The Pixel 4 does not have one, which is a bit of a shame. Definitely makes the other phones a little more versatile, and these are the types of photos that you can expect with these phones. I didn't talk about video here, that's a whole other category to talk about, but in general, I think if you're gonna buy a phone looking for the best video capabilities, you should go with the iPhone 11 Pro. It's pretty much the undisputed king in videography on a cell phone. Next is probably the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, but I'm actually liking some of the videos I've been taking with the Pixel 4, specifically in 1080p. I haven't really tested out the OnePlus 7T's video capabilities yet, but if you guys really want a video, let us know and we will try and do one. If you tally up all the results, the Pixel 4 comes in first with the most wins, then the iPhone, and then Samsung, and then OnePlus. But I think everything's a little more nuanced than that. I think a lot of the photos that I like might not be ones that you liked, and so for you, the results might look different. I think there's one thing you can say for sure though, is that the iPhone and the Pixel are definitely a step above the rest. Thanks for watching, everyone. Which camera phone took your favorite photos? Let us know in the comments, and if I picked something that you didn't like, please don't be mean about it. As always, like, subscribe, and head to digitaltrends.com for more.